All right. Good morning, everyone, or good evening. I guess it depends on what time zone you're in. My name is Mike Verinder. I am the Chief Community Advocate at Katalon. We're here today with Ravi Adamanki, and we're going to talk about, Ravi's going to share his thoughts on leveraging self-healing for automation on the Katalon Platform. It should be a great talk. Ravi, I've known Ravi a long time. He's got an awesome YouTube channel. If you guys are into YouTube, feel free to go over there and check it out. Ravi's also a senior manager at Signity, and he's obviously a Katalon creator. So that's an awesome thing as well. So why don't we just dive straight into it, and Ravi, feel free to take the lead, man.
Yeah, sure. So thanks, Mike. So coming to today's session, right? So we are going to talk more about leveraging self-healing mechanism for automation testing on Katalon Platform, right? So let us just dive into the session, okay? So agenda of session is, so we are going to introduction. Basically, I'm going to introduce you to the self-healing mechanism in Katalon Studio. And then we are going to talk about fixing broken objects and understanding the self-healing mechanism at test case level. Okay. And also we are going to see how self-healing mechanism works at test suite collection level. Okay. And I'm going to teach you what is the selection and prioritization of element locator methods for self-healing. So that is also important when you are actually enabling your self-healing, right? And then also self-healing object exclusion. How can we exclude the objects in self-healing, right? So that's what we are going to learn. And we are going to see specifically how can you perform self-healing with relative to XPath or by using your CSS selectors. Okay, so this session is I'll be covering some of the theoretical, but more towards the hands-on experience. Okay, so let us start with the session. So first of all, let us first understand why do we need self-healing, right? So as you see more and more advanced concepts entering to the industry, the software testing also getting evolved on its way, right? So automation is replacing manual testing process and automating redundant tasks. But that's not enough, because there are a lot of challenges involved in automating your test cases. So we need to overcome those challenges with the new ideas. So self-healing is one of such innovative idea that prevents possible failed test cases and improves the delivery time, right? So now let us understand what is self-healing. So as you all know, so most of the automation team or automation resources, they generally have a concern like, okay, my automation scripts are failing in my new build because there are a lot of changes in the element properties. It's a common challenge and common concern from any automation engineer, right? So why? Because these days, multi-layered and more tricky web application development methodology like microservices come with the diverse range of technologies used in front end for every feature and every service, right? So React.js, Angular.js are using different technologies like CSS, CSS Grid, or Flexbox, right? For different pages within the same system. So that causes, because of these advanced technologies, there is a quite chance of property changes for every build. So now when these attributes change or break, test script fail, leading to the collapse of your entire complete test case, right? So self-healing empowers team to adopt all these changes, and it adopts a shift-left approach in the agile methodology. So not only does it make the testing process efficient, but also it allows for the okay. So and then by self-healing automation. So when we talk about test automation, right? Truly it making a difference by automating your repetitive tasks, right? So Also, idea to evolve further where we want to enable touchless testing in coming feature, right? So touchless testing means, yes, there are some changes. I mean, I'm giving you an example. Okay, so there are some property changes. I don't want to touch the code. I don't want to have a maintenance of the code again. So every release, my locators are changing, my properties are changing. Again, go most of the times. I can say, see, you complete your automation, but the maintenance phase. During the maintenance phase, lot of cost involved. So that maintenance cost also can be reduced. Okay, so here are some fundamental reasons that make self-healing test automation very important. One is it prevents test flakiness from offering better visibility into how stable the tests are. So a flaky test means what? So a flaky test is software test that yields both pass and failing results despite zero code changes or despite zero test changes, right? So that is test flakiness. So you can avoid test flakiness by using self-healing. And also, self-healing offers improved efficiency and overall software performance stability. And you can increase test coverage by reducing redundant code. That means, see, whenever there is a change in the property, again you have to go to your code and change your code to adapt your new properties. So those are all like redundant code, right? It's all redundant activity. So you can avoid such redundant activities. Okay, and self-healing expedites the testing process and provides valuable insights into application issues, actual application issues, and also the component performance. So you need not to spend your time on researching on changed properties, right, and some test flakiness, but you can actually spend some time on insights of your actual application issues, right? And also there will be fewer failed test cases. So as the object locator will be updated automatically. So whenever you enable your self-healing, your object locators are updating automatically. You need not to go and update your script. So that's how your failed test cases will be very fewer. So you need not to research on failed test cases. Lot of time, right? And also it saves time and provides increased efficiency by handling several tedious and manual efforts. Okay. And now let us talk about Katalon self-healing. Okay, so from version 7.6.0, Katalon Studio supports self-healing mechanism to tackle the issue of broken locators during your execution. Okay, this feature reduces your test maintenance effort. I told you, right? The maintenance effort will be substantially reduced, especially when the test cases run in batch overnight. So when you are actually performing regression, for example, assume you have to run all your 1,000 or 2,000 test cases, regression test cases. You generally do, you just run them in a batch overnight and you go home. But now, so during that time, if the test cases are keep on failing because of the property changes, it's a tedious job in the next day to identify why it is failing. So you can basically enable self-healing mechanism by using Katalon's platform, right? So with self-healing enabled, when Katalon Studio fails to find any object with its default locator. So as you all know, I think I'm going to show you anyway, what is this default locator and then what is this pre-configured locators hands-on by showing you in the Katalon Studio. Okay, so whenever there is a failure to find an object with its default locator, Katalon tries other pre-configured locators associated with that particular object. So we are going to see shortly. Okay, and if Katalon Studio finds an object by alternative locators, the test continues. So once the broken object is self-healed, the alternative locator that successfully finds the object will be used for your remaining execution. So it's not going to implement or it's not going to apply self-healing mechanism on the same object in multiple test cases. No. Once it finds the alternative locator, it automatically implements or it automatically uses the alternative locator instead of applying the self-healing repeatedly again and again, right? That is one good feature available in Katalon self-healing. And when test case execution is over, Katalon Studio also suggests you to replace the broken locators with the locator that found the object. So it gives you the proposal. Okay, do you want to really replace the newly identified locator by self-healing? If you want to replace, yes, you can replace. Or if you have your own locator, you can basically go manually and update your own locator directly. Or you can directly approve the changes. So it automatically updates the latest locator so that your next test cases will be running successfully. Okay. And then now, how can we configure your self-healing in Katalon Studio? So you can enable or disable self-healing mode in Katalon Studio in two different ways. So let us, instead of seeing the slide, right, let us directly go to Katalon Studio and see how can we enable self-healing. So this is my Katalon Studio. There are two ways. One is, hope you all able to see my Katalon Studio, right?
I can see it fine.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So now you can enable Katalon self-healing directly by using self-healing icon here, right? So here, if you see, my option is it shows disable self-healing. As soon as I select disable self-healing, now I can see enable self-healing. This is one way. And the other way is you can directly open your self-healing settings, right? Or project settings, and go here. Under self-healing, you can find web UI, where you can simply enable your self-healing option or disable your self-healing option. Okay, so that's how you can enable or disable your self-healing. And now let us see first the first method. What we want to see is fixing broken objects at test case level. So how can we fix the broken objects at test case level? Let us see one example. Okay. So let me go to Katalon Studio, right? And if you see, I just created a folder, right? I want to create a new test case now, okay? I'm going to use just record and play to avoid the time consumption, okay? So self-healing at test case level. Okay, so I'm just creating one test case. I'm going to just record and play, okay? I'm going to do just record and play. Okay, so let us record one simple test to understand how can we apply this self-healing, right, in test case level, okay, at test case level. Okay, I'm just recording this test.
And for our viewers, we'll answer questions toward the end.
I'm just logging into application. Okay, so the application what we are using here is actually it's a Katalon's demo application. Okay, I just logged in, right? And then let me just book an appointment for Tokyo. Assume appointment for Tokyo. Okay, book appointment. I got the confirmation. That's it. So now if I expand this, so you can see all the steps are getting recorded by using Katalon Studio, right? Recorder. So let me stop this recording. So as soon as you stop the recording, so now it will ask you to save your objects. Okay, so let's save my script, and then here I'm going to create a new folder for the object repository. Okay, I'll just say PC level. Okay, now your test scripts is saved, right? Now let us see how can we handle your self-healing at test case level. Okay, so if you see here, the objects, whatever that are stored, I can see these are the objects, right? Let me do a small modification to the object. Let's say make an appointment. Okay, I want to break this particular object locator. I'm just introducing some text to book appointment, and also I want to break this one. Okay, let's break this as well, and also password. Okay, let us save all these changes. So what we did, we basically broken some of the locators for 3 of the objects. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, if I run this test without enabling my self-healing, let's see what happens. Okay, let me run this test quickly. Execute the test and see what happens. So it's going to open your browser and it will not identify the locator because there is a change in the property, correct? Yes, it's just thinking it's not able to identify the element and it's going to fail the test. Yeah, it's failed the test, right? Now you see. So one thing is, I was talking about default locator, right? So whenever Katalon, whenever you record a test or whenever you capture objects by using object spy, for every control or element, this is your default locator. For make appointment, this is my selected locator. For my username, this is my selected locator as part of XPath. Okay, we're going to talk about these different selection methods in upcoming slides anyway. Okay, so now my test is failed because I don't have self-healing enabled. And whenever I enable my self-healing, if you see here, there are a lot of alternative XPaths that are available here, right? So now self-healing will be utilizing these alternative XPaths that are available, right? So let me just, first of all, let me just enable the self-healing. And now let me run this test now, okay? And see straight away what happens, okay? So now, because we enabled self-healing, it should try to identify the alternative objects, alternative locators. So make appointment, now it should, by using default locator, it will fail identifying the object. And now it tries to implement the self-healing process. Yes, so now it is implementing, it's identified the make appointment. In the same way, username and password. So basically, and also you can define what kind of alternative locators it should prefer. So you can prioritize what are all the different locators you want to prioritize while self-healing. So let's assume one of your locators is broken. So if you want to take an alternative locator as attribute instead of XPath, you can define that as well. So that I'm going to cover in the upcoming session. And also, let's assume you want to take image-based locator. So you can prioritize your image-based locator or method as your next priority. So whenever the object is broken, immediately it takes image, right? So prioritization of selection method also available. So if you see here, if you see the test results, analyze the test results, see if you see first, this we have broken this object, right? It is unable to identify the locator. So immediately it started self-healing. So now the self-healing process found working locator called this one, and it applied that working locator. And of course, it also takes one screenshot for your information. You can simply see this object. In the same way, username also happened same thing. Unable to find, immediately self-heal, right? And then your password also unable to find, and then self-heal, right? And one more quick thing is here. So if you see here, as I told you, your username, here I'm setting the text in the same object, and also I'm actually validating the text here. Let me see. Oh, sorry, we are on wrong. Okay, yeah, this one. So I think, yes, we are good. So now let us see now. So at the test case level, this is what we can do. So you can simply self-healing can be enabled. But now let us understand how this self-healing works at test suite level, right? So in the test case level, we already recorded in our one test case. We changed the properties of locator by introducing broken object, right? And then what we did, we enabled our self-healing mode and we ran this test, right? Katalon Studio, whenever it fails to identify the locator via its default locator, it continued to search for our pre-configured alternative locators. That's what we saw just now, right? And once the broken object is self-healed, Studio will continue to apply working alternative locators in the remaining tests. So that I'm going to show you in the next slide. Okay, so let us first understand how this fixing broken objects works at test suite collection level. So once you pull all the test cases to your test suite, because whenever you perform a batch run, right, you basically use your test suite collection. You're not gonna execute your test cases individually, right? So we have to understand how this self-healing mechanism works at test suite level, which is very important while running your regression test cases or batch test cases, right? So now let's go to again our Katalon Studio. To avoid to save some time, I already recorded some of the test cases. Okay, let me show you that. Okay, quickly. Let me close all these tabs to avoid confusion. Okay. So let's see here now. As part of test suite level collection, I already created 3 different test cases. So let's open this one. Okay, I created 3 different test cases. One is just authentication, whatever the application just we used, right? I'm just logging into the application. And then the next test case, what I automated is, I'm just booking an appointment for Hong Kong. And then I'm also booking an appointment for Tokyo. So these are 3 different test cases I created, right? So now let us create test suites for these. Okay, let me create multiple test suites so that I can execute those test suites in test suite collection. Okay, let's go to test suite, expand this. Now let us add test suite here. Okay, I'll say authentication test suite, one test suite, authentication. And also I want to add 2 more test suite collections. Okay, appointment Tokyo, and then also appointment for Hong Kong. Let's say okay, so we created these 3 test suites. Now let us quickly map our test cases to these 3 test suites. Okay, to authentication, I'm gonna just simply add the test case related to authentication. Okay, so this is one test case. Even though I'm adding only one test case, this is just for an example. I'm adding only one test case per test suite. Okay, okay, let us, I think we already added. See, Okay, so adding authentication, and then let us add for Tokyo. Let me add another test case related to Tokyo. Correct. I'm just checking this. Done. And then Hong Kong. Let's add another test case. Okay, so we are done creating test suites. Now let me just quickly create test suite collection. Okay, so that I can execute all those test suites together. Okay, so now let's simply add these test suites, 3 different test suites. Okay, added these 3 test suites. So before we run this test suite collection, I want to make sure, okay, object repository. Let's go to object repository. Okay, so this is my object repository. Okay, I'm going to make sure that there are some broken objects. Okay, I'll do one thing. I'm going to break one here. Make appointment. I'm going to make even password to broken. Okay, and then let us also make book appointment button. Okay, let's break this one as well. Okay, let's save this. So now when I run the collection, right, how does this self-healing works? Let us understand. Because if you observe closely, authentication is using common objects like make appointment, username, password, and your Tokyo, appointment for Tokyo also using the same objects, and also Hong Kong using the same objects. But of course, there are some additional objects in these 2 suites, but there are some common objects. Now, when I run this test suite, does Katalon is going to apply self-healing for the broken objects for every test suite? No, it's not going to do that. So it's intelligent enough to handle such scenarios. Let me just move this up, authentication. Okay. So save this and let us run this entire series. Okay. We'll see how it handles. We selected sequence order. Okay. So there are 2 different ways. We can run the test suite collection, sequence and parallel. So we'll see in sequence, how does this self-healing handles. And later, we are going to see how does this self-healing handles at parallel also. So now it runs your authentication, right? Where it uses make appointment, which is broken. It self-heals and password and also your book appointment. So as I told you earlier, so while it is running, let us explain. As I told you earlier, in the first test case, it self-heals 2 of the objects, which is make appointment and password, right? So when you are running your second test case, the Katalon directly applies the alternative locator that identified while running your first test. Okay, because it's not going to enable self-healing one more time. So that's the intelligence enough. Okay, so done. So now second time, I'm going to show you the test results. Okay, so when it is running your second test suite, 2 objects are already fixed. It's going to use the alternative locators. So pardon me, my system is a little slow. Bear with me.
Well, you have a lot running, right? You're running Zoom on top of
Yeah.
a lot of stuff too, so it's a bit of a memory hog.
So as soon as second test suite run, that we will stop the script, okay, so that I can show you what I'm talking about. Okay. Okay. So now I think the book appointment also will be self-healed. Okay, so this is done. So let's stop and then we just analyze the test results now. Okay, we'll see how it works. So if you see here, if you scroll here, so my first test suite, let's see my authentication. The test results for the authentication, see here, first make appointment unable to find, it's self-heal. In the same way, your password also, it's self-healed, right? So if I go to my second run, which is Hong Kong, I think, yeah, this one. If you see here, my first make appointment, right? See, it is unable to find, but it did not apply any self-healing process because it is able to find the object by the alternative object. Simple. So in the same way, password also. See, there is no self-healing enablement. If you see again in the authentication, if you see here, there is a process called self-healing enabled here in the first step, right? So that's the advantage. Okay, so that's how your self-healing process is being handled at a suite level. Okay, and also let me introduce you to one new other concept. Okay, so once these, because Katalon identified your alternative objects, if you go to self-healing insights, right? If you click on self-healing insights, I can see all these alternative objects. So now I can approve this is your broken locator and this is your proposed locator. Your broken locator, proposed locator. So let's say I want to approve 3 of them. So you can simply uncheck. If you don't want to approve this, you can uncheck. I want to approve make appointment, username, and password. Let's assume. Okay.
Ravi, we can't hear you, buddy. Lost audio.
Sorry. Oh, when did I lost? Did I lose long back?
I don't know. 4 sentences ago.
What is that?
When you went down to the test results, we lost audio.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I didn't say 40. I said 4 sentences, Russ.
Okay. So basically, you guys, we were looking at log viewer.
Well, about 30 seconds. About 30 seconds, Rob.
Okay. So then, yeah. So basically what we are doing, we are actually approving. So here, if you see the self-healing insights, where you can see what is your broken locator and what is your proposed locator, right? It is proposing you that. So we already approved 2 of the locators for which I want to use the newly proposed locator. And now rest of them, I can discard them. So when I discard them, right? So now if you go back to your locator, let's go back to our locators here. We have approved make appointment change. I think, oh, sorry, not this one. Let's see, password. Okay, let me just refresh all this. So as soon as you approve the changes, you should find those changes in the newly proposed locator should be reflecting here. Okay, that's what we are going to do. That is the meaning of your approval. Okay, so let's go back here now. Let us quickly run parallel. Okay, now you understand, right? So in series how it works, and then let us understand in parallel how it works. Okay, so I already created all the test suites and everything in parallel, right? I can simply trigger test suite directly, okay, in parallel. Okay, let's run my test suite in parallel now. So this is my test suite collection. And if you see, when I run this test suite collection in parallel, what happens? Katalon will handle your self-healing in such a way that, so whenever for the first time, let's say your authentication started for first, right? So in that case, your username, password, or your make appointment objects will be self-healed. But later, the same self-healed or proposed locator will be used in subsequent actions. So that is how we can use your self-healing mechanism in sequence as well as your parallel. Okay, so if you see here, this is what we covered, right? We created test suite collection. We ran the test suite collection by disabling or by enabling your self-healing, right? And then it automatically handled all, basically it self-healed all your objects, and also it proposed your newly identified object locators, and where we approved those proposed object locators so that the newly identified object locators will be replaced with the broken locators. That's what we saw. And then let us understand prioritization of element locator methods. Now, in self-healing, when you enable your self-healing, if you want to prioritize your element locators, how can we do that? So if you go to your self-healing settings, right? So if you see, when you are enabling your self-healing execution, you can also specify your prioritization. For example, you have an XPath as your locator. If your XPath locator is broken, immediately it should consider what? I define it as attribute locator method. So once it identifies attribute locators method, it goes for the CSS locator. So you can basically prioritize all your element locator methods for the self-healing method. Okay, so that is what this slide talks about. So you can decide to use one or multiple methods also. So let's say I want to use only these two, like I want to use XPath and attribute as my self-healing capabilities. So that means if I want to use only attribute, what it does, first, whenever your XPath is broken, it tries to identify alternative XPaths. If you go to configure default locators here, for only XPath and attributes, right? You have a concept called configure default locators. So basically, so let me go here. It identifies your alternative default locators within the XPath first, and it identifies alternative locators within the attributes. Let me show you that how it shows. Okay, I'm talking about this one. If it default is broken, then it starts identifying all these alternative XPath locator methods. So you have these many locator methods, right? Neighbors, you have href, all these alternative XPath locators methods you'll try to identify. And if you define the priority as attribute, if nothing is worked out, it goes for the attribute. And within the attribute, it's going to look for this locator and then next locator. If identifies locator, it immediately proposes attribute as your alternative locator. Okay, so that's how you can basically prioritize your self-healing alternative locator methods. Okay,
awesome. And I also see is you could exclude by keyword.
Yes, so let us go to exclusion methods. Okay, what is our next? Object exclusion from self.
There you go.
Yeah, so when does this comes into picture? Let me show you one quick example here. Okay, so if you go to this one, there is one test case which talks about object exclusion. Okay, I already automated this one. So auto healing works in some cases, but there are some scenarios where I don't want to auto heal or I don't want to enable auto healing. For example, I want to verify element value attribute. So as soon as you enter some value into username, I want to verify the attribute called value. or I want to verify the element text. So in these scenarios, I don't want to apply the self-healing, because even though my value does not match, it's going to self-heal by using alternative locator method. It doesn't make sense, right? So in this case, what I can do, I can simply go to my self-healing settings, right? And here I can include self-healing attributes. Now I want to introduce the keywords like verify element attribute value. That is one keyword I want to introduce. And I want to introduce verify element text. Whenever I add, let's say click on add, right? It added one attribute here. So I can simply change this. So I can change here. So you can see entire list of keywords that you want to add. Or you can simply type in here, verify element attribute value. I want to add this. And also I want to add verify element text. Verify element text. So this is another one keyword I want to add, because I don't want to self-heal these two assertions. Basically, I'm talking about assertions. Whenever there is an assertion, we don't want to self-heal. Now, Katalon, whenever I run the test case, what it does, it searches for the keyword called verify element attribute. It searches for the keyword called verify element text. Even though this particular object locator is broken, it's going to fail the test case. It's not going to self-heal by using alternative method. So when I run this test now, right, the same object is used here in the step 4, the same object is used in step 5. Let's see what happens. Step 4, it should apply self-healing, but in step 5, it should not apply self-healing with a keyword combination. Yeah, hope you all understand the concept, right? So meanwhile, let's go back to our next slide. So here, that's what we are saying. Some scenarios, you don't need test engine to try out different locators to find out the object, especially for the steps where you're working with the verify action. So whenever there is an assertion. So in such scenarios, you can exclude objects by adding keywords in self-healing project settings. We already saw that. So all test objects associated to such keywords will be excluded from self-healing mode. And now, self-healing with XPath and CSS selectors. It's a specific, okay? So when you are self-healing your test cases by using only XPath, how does it work? It's simple. So basically, whenever there is an XPath healing, what we do, so if you see here, whenever I record or whenever I record the test or whenever I create the test, I'm using only XPaths. Let's assume that, okay? So in that case, if you see here, these are my object locators and I'm using my selection method as XPath here, right? If I want to self-heal by only using XPath, all you need to do is you can simply go here and here you can specify your prioritization method here and you can remove all these and you can keep XPath and attribute itself. And if it identifies the alternative XPath method, it immediately takes the alternative method. And let's assume if I want to do with CSS selector, for example, okay, I want to identify CSS selector. For example, there is another method here, CSS healer. Here, in this case, we have object locators. Okay, in this case, the object locators, if you see in the object locators, let's say this is my CSS locator. Here, I have only one default XPath locator. So if this locator is broken, if this locator is broken, then what happens? It should directly go and see my CSS selector. So if you go here, I have a CSS. So to enable this feature, because I don't have any alternative XPath, so you can simply go here. Here, I have to move this CSS selector to the top. And then remove these two and apply. So now, if I run this test case, what it does, it simply, when it reaches to this object, right? And then it finds, okay, XPath is broken, but I don't have any alternative XPaths. CSS, right? Let's go there. Yeah, this one. So I have
That's
only
awesome
one
on the reprioritization.
Correct. Yeah.
That's awesome how we can reprioritize how we want.
Exactly.
I'm sorry,
We are
Robbie, I'm
reprioritizing,
screwing you up.
yeah, the attributes. So that's how you can basically work on any kind of, if you want to self-heal with XPath, you can apply self-heal with XPath. If you want to apply self-heal with your CSS selector, you can apply CSS selector as well, right? I think we are done with most of the concepts that we would like to cover for this session. Do you guys have any questions that we can answer?
Yeah, so we have a couple, Ravi. An anonymous question that came over was, can we use self-healing for desktop application record and playback as well?
Yes, we can do that as well.
I'm not. Okay. And another one from Akshay. Hi, Akshay Sharma here. Can we use self-healing for the locators we have created in the keywords using Page Factory?
By using Page Factory model? Yes, but only thing is, see, even though you create Page Factory, you have to insert your keyword to exclude. You're talking about exclusion, right? Can you repeat that question, Mike?
Sure. He said, can we use self-healing for the locators we have created in the keywords using Page Factory?
Yes.
Yeah.
We can apply for Page Factory.
Okay. And we have one from Ken Brown that says, does self-healing notifications make it to the test results report? I'm not searching logs for tests that pass.
It makes
so when we use self-healing, does it flow through to our reporting anywhere?
Yes, it flows to the reporting. Yes, you can see. Yes,
that's a good question. Good question, Ken. Jennifer Tran had one. Can we enable self-healing if we are executing from the KRE, Katalon Runtime Engine, or is it only for Katalon Studio?
I think I need to get back to you on that, Mike.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll follow up with you, Jennifer.
Sure.
That's actually a really good question. All right. Let me look and see if I had any in the comments. Naveen asked, do we need to approve the locators manually after each run to get the same fix for the next run, or will it be auto approved?
No, so basically you need to approve for each locator. You need to approve once manually, right? Once it is approved, for the next tests, you need not to approve again. It automatically gets adopted with the newly identified locators. But yes, for each object you have to approve, because it's not, if it is auto approving, there is a quite chance that, tester does not want to auto approve, right? So it's just user has to approve.
All right, Naveen, great question. Martin also had a question. How can we configure a recorder select locator to never use the ID locator? He says, because in my case, he has a dynamic generation ID.
Yeah, so manually, see, in Katalon, right, whatever, let's say you don't want to use ID at all, okay? So you go to your locator object, and then you can manually add whatever the locator method that you want to add. You can remove ID locator, and then you can add whatever. Let's say you want to use XPath by using href instead of ID. So you can do that as well.
Okay. Okay. Muth. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing this. Muthu. Kumar had a question. After self-healing, it's taking a screenshot, right? That image will be used in the order of locator image?
No. So basically, if you want to use a locator image, where you need to provide the path of your image. So there is a separate path where you can provide. If you go to, let me just go here in the Katalon, right? So let's say I want to use image. So if you see here, image. So this is where you basically provide the relative path that you would like to use for the self-healing. In case all these are failed,
Okay.
and it reaches here, it compares the image from this relative path.
Okay. Jennifer Tran had a question. Thanks, Jennifer. Does this only work if objects are created using the object spy tool? We have manually created our objects and did not include alternate locators.
No, it not only object spy. I mean, it works for whatever. Let's say if you want to add, let's say I'm adding here, right? You can add locators here also. It works manually add locators as well. It does not need to be recorded or object spy.
Okay. And I guess one more from an anonymous. How to differentiate between the locator change and an actual defect in the application?
That's a great question. It's again, I mean, depending upon, it's basically, again, you need to see the result, right? You need to see the result, and then
if you need to know your application.
You need to know your application to identify, okay, if it is a failure of your because of the locator change or failure because of your application behavior. It's just
All right. I think that wraps us up, guys. Ravi, thank you so much for your time. Everyone, thank you so much for coming out and attending. We did have a poll. Han, can you launch our poll? Han, you around? There it is. So we'd love to get some feedback for you. If you like this session, we would love to do more for you. If you like the session but you don't like me, that's okay too. I want to thank Ravi. Ravi's awesome. Just to let you guys know, Ravi has a great YouTube channel. Ravi also teaches classes on our Katalon Academy. We'd love to have him there. He's also a Katalon creator, but he's not just limited to Katalon. Ravi is a really experienced automator across a number of different tools. So I encourage you to check him out on his YouTube channel and just maybe even on LinkedIn. So thank you all for joining. We had a great time. Thank you so much, Ravi.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
Thank you, guys. So look forward to the next one. All right.
Thank you, everyone. Yep.
All right. Have a great day, guys.